Welcome back, AP Psychers. In today's video, we are going to overview how to approach the Unit 10 FRQs. These are of particular importance because I've asked you to time yourself in the exact amount of time that you will be provided on the AP exam for 8 bullets, as this FRQ has provided you. The very first bullet is what we call retinal disparity, which is one of the most challenging bullets that they've asked in recent history. This was a bullet on the 2016 AP exam, actually in the exact same question that you're answering, the Ashley driving across the country one. Retinal disparity really has a few different things that you need to take a note of. One is it is a depth perception cue, which means the concept of retinal disparity allows you to judge how far objects are from you at any given point, which in the context of driving can be of a huge benefit. It tells you how close the car in front of you is, tells you how far away the exit is. It provides you with a ton of information judging depth, which, as you would obviously assume, is a huge part of driving. Before we get into the second and third points, I actually would like you, if you have the opportunity to do so, to follow along with this demo. If we were in class, we would do this demo. It might seem a little weird to do in the context of a video, but we can give it a shot, because if you understand this demo, you'll have a much better understanding of this somewhat complicated term. What I want you to do is, I've written the directions here, but I'll read them aloud and explain them. I want you to focus your eyes somewhere distant in the room that you're in. So all the way across against the wall, all the way to the other side of the room. Once you have determined what you're going to focus on, what you do next is take your fingers and you bring them about a centimeter or so apart. Close, but not touching. Then I want you to position your fingers about an inch or so below your line of vision. Meaning if you're staring straight ahead, your fingers are about an inch below your line of vision. If you do this properly, and this is going to sound weird, but if you do this properly, what you're going to get is this phenomenon, where you have one pointer finger, another pointer finger, and then in the middle, you're going to have this half finger, I like to call it a finger sausage, but if you do this properly, what you'll see is the end of one pointer finger, the end of another pointer finger, and then in the middle of that, this finger sausage phenomenon. This finger sausage phenomenon is what we call retinal disparity, because what happens is each eye receives a different angle on the object, in this case your fingers, that you're looking at. And as a result, your brain has to process the very slight difference as to what each eye is seeing, and as a result of that, determine depth. If you were to go back and do this demo and move your fingers like I am doing, you would actually notice the size of the finger sausage would increase or decrease depending how far away your arms are. If you do this properly, what you would notice is that when there is a high disparity, which means a really large finger sausage, it means the object is close. The object is right in front of you. If an object has low disparity, it means the object is far away. So retinal disparity is a phenomenon that allows us to determine how far an object is from us at any given point. From that point, it would be best to give an example of either an object that is close or either far away. If an object is close, what you should describe is there being a high disparity between what each retina sees. Each eye is getting a very different angle of the object. Like, for example, if I were to stare at this marker, each eye is getting a very different angle of the marker. And as a result, my brain is able to process that significant difference and determine this object is close. If I were to extend this to the other side of the classroom, my eye is going to be so straightforward and dead set on the marker that each eye is more or less going to get the same angle. And as a result of that small disparity, my brain would be able to evaluate that that object must be far away. From that point, you can provide a ton of different examples of how depth and understanding distance could be of a benefit driving or really doing just about any behavior. The next bullet is one that I've provided multiple times during this unit because it's been a recent FRQ on the actual AP exam, and it's what we call foveal vision. There's a couple aspects of foveal vision. One is it's your straight ahead. So whenever you're looking straight on, dead on, whatever you see straight ahead is in your foveal vision. And as a result, it has the highest degree of accuracy. Sometimes you can call that acuity or sharpness. We would do a demo if we were in class, and we're not really able to quite replicate it perfectly, but I'll just give you an example and you might be able to understand that. What I want you to do is, as you are sitting there right now watching this video, I want you to stare at the words straight ahead. Just stare directly at that. I'm going to write something on the periphery of the board, but I don't want you to look at it. You must stare straight ahead, right here where it says straight ahead. I'll even put this little circle for you to focus your eyes on. If you're doing this properly, you might have a really difficult time reading the number that I wrote over here. You can now shift your eyes over to the 837 that I wrote. Although you could probably pick up that 837 was in blue, because you were staring here, it was probably difficult to actually make out each of those three numbers. And it was only until your eyes shifted from here to here did the 837 all of a sudden become accurate, sharp, with great acuity. That's what we call foveal vision. It's your most dead-on, straight-ahead vision. It is also the most color-rich. Your fovea contains what are called cones. They are one of the two different types of receptors in your retina. Rods, which are responsible for black, white, and gray, and then cones, which are responsible for color. The majority of your cones, or at least in terms of how they're clustered, are found in the fovea, which partially explains why it's such an accurate and sharp form of vision in the first place. So whether you identify something about color, or just accuracy, or the fact that it's straight ahead, there are a few different ways that you can incorporate foveal vision into an FRQ. On the off chance that you see the word fovea, you would approach that FRQ the exact same way. The fovea is just the anatomical structure that produces foveal vision. The third bullet contrasts foveal vision very well. It's rods. Rods are responsible for black, white, and gray vision. Your rods are also responsible for twilight or night vision. One of the reasons why in the middle of the night when you have all your lights on and then you turn them off, it's pitch black in your room. But after a little bit of time, all of a sudden you can start to see the outline of your bed and the outline of your furniture, is because your rods take a little bit of time to adapt. We call that dark adaptation. It's also responsible for peripheral vision. The word peripheral vision means your side vision. So, for example, when you look straight ahead at something, it's in your fovea, your foveal vision. However, things that are in your periphery, on your left and right, all the way to each side, is being detected by your rods, which is one of the reasons why detecting color in your peripheries can be quite challenging. There's not really any cones there to detect the color in the first place. So try this out. Look straight ahead at something in your room and see to what extent you can accurately judge color all the way in your periphery. It's somewhat challenging. Well, that's because your rods are responsible for peripheral vision and are only responsible for detecting black, white, and gray. So if you were to approach this in an FRQ, there's quite a few different things you could do. Identify something that's black, white, or gray that the individual in the prompt deals with or sees and evaluates. Enabling night vision. Or you could talk about something in the periphery. Like, for example, you're playing a sport, and although your attention is directed forward, in your periphery you notice one of the opposing players and you can successfully dodge them before they come in contact with you. The fourth bullet was sound localization. This is another concept that we would have demoed had we been in class. This unit is actually rich with demos. It's one of the reasons it's the last unit, which is quite a shame. But nevertheless, I'll try to briefly explain the demo, and then we'll go back to approaching it in FRQ. I have here a picture. I have here two ears, to the best of my drawing ability, and I have here written in this circle the word sound. If a sound is produced here, like let's say your cell phone rings, the sound waves travel to each of the ears. So it's going to travel to this ear, but it's also going to travel to this ear. There is a literal difference between the amount of space between here and here and here and here. As a result, although it's extremely small, your brain is able to interpret the location of a sound by judging the small difference in how long it takes the sound waves to travel from where it was produced to your actual ears, where the process of hearing begins. Which means that sound localization has a few components to it. One is it allows you to locate sound, but it's a result of having two ears, which means if for whatever reason one ear didn't function or had some type of hearing loss, this concept would be more challenging and wouldn't be as applicable. But it allows you to locate sound because of having two ears, but specifically, and this third point is important, it's because the sound waves travel different distances. And as a result of this small difference, your brain is able to interpret which ear received the information first and allows you to determine, did the sound come from my left, my right, is it straight ahead, could it be in any direction around me? This can be of enormous importance while driving. This can be of enormous importance while playing sports. You know, you're sitting out there and you hear a sound and you turn to the left because your brain was able to interpret that it came from the left. That is all a byproduct of what's called sound localization. Kinesthetic sense is one of the senses that you might not have heard of prior to taking this course, and it is most simply understood as your awareness of body part location. It's not the exact definition that you would find off of Prezi, but I think it's a really simple enough definition to work with. Like, for example, I currently know that my right shoulder and my right elbow is resting against the wall. The sensation that I am experiencing regarding those regions of my body, I am able to interpret right now and judge where my arm is located. The fact that my feet are touching the floor is a result of the kinesthetic sense. I have awareness of where my body parts are because of the sensation that I am experiencing. This can be of an enormous benefit to you while playing sports, while driving, while doing just about any activity that requires some movement, because it allows you to know where your arms are at any given point. Like, for example, when you're steering the wheel of a car, your kinesthetic sense is going to allow you to know the location of each of your arms and limbs. When you're running, it's going to alert you when you should take the next step, which might seem like a trivial point, but there are some cases of individuals who have lost their kinesthetic sense, who, and this might sound really quite profound, do not experience the sensation of their foot touching the floor, which means when they're walking, they don't have that touch sensation to judge when they should take another step. So it's a sense that you might overlook, it's a sense that you might not have heard of prior to taking this class, but it's a really profound sense knowing the location of a body part at any given moment. If you were really good at sports and had to perhaps stay in bounds at certain points, your kinesthetic sense is going to be really beneficial as you're tiptoeing across the sideline, staying in bounds. It can be really pivotal when you're playing tennis to make sure that you're located appropriately. The sixth bullet is what we call inattentional blindness, and there are a couple key factors in understanding inattentional blindness. One, the object in question is visible. It's in what we call your field of vision. However, you are unable to detect it because your attention is brought to something else in your field of vision. So, for example, focus is on another aspect of your field of vision. So right now, within your field of vision is this picture over here of this turtle. You may have noticed it in some of the videos. However, it might have been just sort of this passing element that you've never focused your attention on. Your focus might be on what's on the whiteboard, maybe the few times that the finger creeps in from the corner, maybe you've been looking at the countdown. However, if this turtle has been in the back and you haven't noticed it at all, the fact that I am referencing this turtle in the first place is news to you. That's a great example of inattentional blindness. The object has been visible. It's been within your field of vision. You've just chose to attend to other aspects of your field of vision, like what I'm writing, for example. Perhaps this is the first time you're realizing that I'm wearing an Aponiquit t-shirt. Maybe you've watched all 6 previous bullets or 5 previous bullets without ever realizing I'm wearing an Aponiquit t-shirt. This whole video, the Aponiquit A, has been visible to you. However, your attention is focused on things that are more important. If you were interested in noticing that, you could have seen it, so it was visible. It is in your field of vision, but your focus is on something else. This could explain why somebody who is paying attention, so I'm not talking about staring at your phone texting, I'm talking about actually looking straight ahead, could run a red light. It was in the field of vision. However, their eyes were focused more on the sale going on at the store that they were driving by and the big sign explaining how much off their products are. That's a great example of, well, the stop sign was in my field of vision, but my focus was on another aspect of my field of vision. And as a result, I was inattentionally blind to the object in question, whether that's a red light, a stop sign, the Aponiquit A, or the turtle above my shoulder. The 7th bullet is what we call color blindness. It can sometimes be referred to as color deficient vision. There are a few different forms of color deficient vision. Some of the most common ones are having a difficult time differentiating between red and green due to some type of deficiencies or malfunction with the specific cones associated with those colors. Another fairly common one is difficulty evaluating blue and yellow. Color deficient vision was actually in the news a few years ago. On a Thursday night, the New York Jets, a football team with a very green uniform, played the Buffalo Bills, a team with a very red uniform. Now, traditionally, when two teams play, one chooses to wear the color white in order to easily differentiate the two teams. However, on this Thursday night, both teams wore the primary color jersey, and as a result, a very red uniform played a very green uniform, which made for an interesting viewing experience for most fans, but an incredibly disheartening viewing experience for individuals with color deficient vision who simply could not differentiate the Jets from the Bills. It was a clear oversight made by the NFL. They didn't do it on purpose, and they've made comments alluding to the fact that they won't do it again. But that's a great case of color deficient vision playing out in the real world. In the FRQ that you are answering, you need to apply color deficient vision to driving. And there are tons of different examples where I think the green and red colors can come into play. And I'm not saying that an individual with color deficient vision can't drive, not that at all. However, your FRQ does ask you to relate this to driving. So whether it's street lights, whether it's signs in general, maybe confusing a stop sign for something else, there are examples where color deficient vision could affect driving, and any of those examples would be appropriate. You could do blue and yellow and try to apply that to driving. I just think red and green makes the most obvious sense due to the common colors of red and green while driving, and again, lights and signs. The final bullet was what we call the vestibular sense. I provided this to you earlier in the unit, and some individuals gave me FRQ bullets that were quite a bit off. So this is a really important one to look at. The vestibular sense is responsible for balance, or body equilibrium. Inside your ear are what are called vestibular sacs, and inside those sacs are liquid that alert your body to movement. It is actually the reason why you feel dizzy after getting off of a roller coaster. You literally have liquid still rolling around and moving around within your vestibular sacs, informing your brain that you're moving when in fact you're not. That is the sensation of dizziness. Some individuals on the FRQ earlier took balance and sort of applied it to being able to multitask. This has nothing to do with anything like that. This is a movement-based sense. So for example, your ability to walk a straight line is a result of your vestibular sense. Your ability to turn the wheel of a car nice and crisp without having some type of accident is an example of your vestibular sense. Your ability to move freely without falling over is an example of your vestibular sense. You could, in theory, apply this in sort of a negative way and say that the individual in the scenario got dizzy. Dizziness is a great application of this. Your brain is still receiving messages of movement when in fact you are not moving. That is the sensation of dizziness. So whether it's just talking about balance and moving, whether it's just body equilibrium and not tipping over and falling over when trying to walk a straight line, or just the sensation of dizziness, those are all related to your vestibular sense. The FRQ that you are writing asks you to provide an example of hindrance, so it is possible that you make the individual dizzy. That would be an applicable example. And then obviously talk about why dizziness is not a good thing while driving, which is what the question is asking.